Welcome everyone for this session on low-code, and especially on how low-code can be utilized to digitize workflows in your organization. My name is Jacob. I'm a manager at Deloitte working in our systems engineering practice. I'm also the lead of our low-code initiative in Denmark. With me today, I have brought Jonas from Outsystems. Jonas, would you give a short introduction to yourself?
Absolutely. So Jonas, solution architect at Outsystems. So everything that lands on my table relates to how the platform can be matched to different sort of challenges that customers all over, in this case, Nordic region has. So I'm in the middle between the business and the technology there to do that mapping. So I'm happy to be here today to talk about the workflow builder and how Outsystems can help you get even more productive in certain areas.
Yes, so the emphasis on today's session is to talk about how Outsystems can empower your citizen developers. And when I say citizen developer, what we mean is employees in your organization that are typically less technical than traditional programmers and software engineers, but who have a strong business understanding. And through the use of low-code tools like Outsystems, we can empower them to contribute and take part in developing new digital applications that benefit the organization. So let's have a look at the agenda. First up, we would like to just briefly introduce you to Outsystems as a platform and how that brings the benefits of low-code in various shapes and forms. Next, we would like to focus on the workflow builder that Jonas just mentioned. The workflow builder is one of the no-code functionalities in Outsystems that is especially strong at empowering the citizen developers. Then we would like to take you through a tour of the workflow builder. So we will build an app and show you just how easy it is to use the workflow builder and how much you can gain from it in terms of actually building a real application that can scale and can be flexible as well. Finally, after the demo, we would have a look at typical and common use cases for Outsystems and the workflow builder. If you have any questions throughout the session, you are very, very welcome to text them to us. We will try to get through them at the end in the Q&A session. Should there be any questions we are not able to get through, we will get back to you with a written answer after the session. Yes, and with that said, Jonas, will you take us away?
Absolutely. So how can Outsystems bring benefits of low code? So change to the next slide. Exactly. So what is Outsystems for those of you that don't know what we are? So basically, of course, it's a company and it is a platform. So related to the platform, it is a complete full stack platform that enables you to develop applications from ground and up. So we cover everything from creating data models, business logic, functional logic, and of course the user interface through all different kind of devices. We also integrate to any kind of underlying system. And all this is integrated in what we call a digital factory that covers the entire life cycle of applications for web, mobile, and core systems. And how does this work? So it's a visual language. So compared to traditional coding, the way that you develop in Outsystems is entirely visual. So on the right side of the screen there, you can see right now a picture of now the logic, how it looks like. So pretty much anyone that can understand a flow chart, start here, do some decision points, branch out to some functionality, can understand the source code of Outsystems. So it's a very highly productive design environment that works for all type of software applications. I would say set aside computer gaming. That is not something that we normally touch, but everything that has to do with business applications. All right. Next slide. Exactly. So what is low code? Well, we sometimes compare it with I mean, for example, how you made cars before. You had your mechanicals doing something like pictured on the left side. If you now walk into a car factory, it will look like this. So it's highly automated, and of course you have the possibility to add human touch wherever needed. So this very much correlates to how traditional coding and low code relates to each other. So instead of writing the code that you see in the left side, we have this much higher, let's say, abstraction layer of how to actually enter the code. This means it's faster to learn, easier to understand, easy to share, and you will gain a lot of speed in the development process. And also the underlying machinery behind that allows you to create applications that scale over enterprise organizations in a very good way. So next slide. As always, I mean, we as Outsystems can talk a lot about low code and the benefits, but it's also very important to see what does other people say. So both Gartner and Forrester have a lot, I would say, recently talked about emerging technologies where Outsystems is in the center of that map. So there are a lot of research done there and predictions about how this will actually, I would say, really grow in the upcoming year. I mean, for those of you that have been in the IT industry for some time, we see tools coming and going, and some are good, some are better, but always try to make it easier and more efficient to do development. And right now, low code and the way we do application development this way is, I would say, very much in focus in the industry right now. All right. So with that, what does this really mean to you? I will hand over, and please take it away, Jacob.
Yes. So what we will do now is to show you some of the benefits that come along with Outsystems, how it supports this rapid development that Jonas just talked about. First up, we have a point on high-speed delivery. This is, of course, one of the main things that is typical across different low-code application platforms. In Outsystems, this means that through the platform, you can develop both web applications and mobile applications. You can do this in a complete visual development way. That means you can develop the interfaces, the screens that you will see. You can also develop the backend logic in the same tool. And finally, you can build the data structure that you need underneath, all as part of the same tool and all in a visual way. On top of that, there's a lot of accelerators. That means that you can very quickly make a data model and actually put that into visual screens or logics that will then increase the speed with which you can build an application. Also, when you have built that application and you would like to test it out on a development environment or later environments, all the development pipelines are pre-built with the platform. That means you click one button, and at that time it will build the application and deploy it to the development environment. And that is all in a matter of seconds. If you have very large applications, that might not be seconds, that might be 1 or 2 minutes, but still it's very, very fast. As I mentioned, you can also build mobile applications. If you compare building mobile and web applications in Outsystems, it's almost identical. At least 90-something% would be completely the same. And that means that you can have a development team or product team that can now build both the mobile applications and the web applications within some kind of product. And that is a lot easier compared to traditional programming, where you would have a substantially different tool chain for mobile applications and web applications. Furthermore, when you build a mobile application in Outsystems, you build one version, and only at the end where you want to publish it to a store, you have to choose whether you would like to deploy that as an Android application or an iOS application. And that means, again, if you want some application to be on both stores, you only have to construct and maintain one version of your application. Now, moving along to some of the other capabilities, something that we will touch upon in more depth today is the workflow capabilities of Outsystems and also of the workflow builder. So what you can do in Outsystems is that you can create fairly complex business workflows as processes inside of Outsystems. In these workflows, you can include all the things that you can build in Outsystems and things outside. That means your workflow can utilize interfaces and screens, all kinds of logic you can build. You can include manual tasks where you are sending out a request to someone who then have to, for instance, accept or reject something, and only upon the answer the process will move on. Also, you can have automated steps as well, meaning that these steps will be something that you either accomplish through logic developed in Outsystems, or you can use external sources like connecting through APIs to different other services you might have and use those as part of the process. So you can see Outsystems also as an application that can be the orchestrator of very complex applications and workflows. I think one of the benefits that has come in recent versions of Outsystems is that you're able to build asynchronous workflows. This allows for a completely different and improved scalability and performance in those workflows. That means that when you build a workflow in Outsystems, you don't have to think of it as something small or niche-like. You can build very huge processes that would process millions of activities with no problem. With that said, let's move to the next thing. Integration is very important when you think of Outsystems. Outsystems is by no means a solution that has to be all or nothing. You can build many applications in Outsystems that work very well together with other applications, those being from Outsystems or not. So integrating is very important, and it's also something that is very easy and fast to do in Outsystems. You have basically two ways to go forward with integrations. As number one, you can use pre-built connectors. Those connectors you could see as some kind of wrapper around APIs of different services. So it's very easy to use that connector and easily connect to some other service. Those connectors might be from Outsystems, such as the SAP connector that allows you to easily connect with your SAP instances and then build applications on top of those. But also, there's a very huge open source community around Outsystems. And if someone has built a connector, this wrapper around APIs for some product, that might be available through the Outsystems Forge, which is the open source library of additional connectors, apps, modifications, and so forth. You can use these connectors to really fast get going with integrations. However, there's the second option. If there's no connector, you can still integrate with all kinds of applications and services as long as they have SOAP or REST endpoints. So you can consume those endpoints, both SOAP and REST. You can also expose REST integrations from your Outsystems application. This means that you can very easily fit Outsystems in as part of your systems landscape, utilizing some of the data available in your systems landscape, or you can expose data that can then be used by other applications, or data warehouses, or any kind of solution that you would like. Now moving to the UI and the user experience of Outsystems. I think that goes for almost any low-code development application platform that you can find, that it has a lot of UX built into the solution already. This is of course also the case for Outsystems. Outsystems do have all of this with a wide range of different widgets and similar that you can use on the screens. It is very easy to go along with, and the visuals are very good as a starting point. However, to me, I think something that is probably more relevant is that it is very, very flexible. With Outsystems, you are not bound to using the UI and the UX provided by the platform. You can change this through a number of ways. You can use the visual enhancements to change the visual as you would like. Also, you can change in a more traditional fashion the CSS code behind the visuals. And you can do that on various levels. That means if you have a button on a screen, you can change the visual of that button. You can, however, also, through these levels, choose that I would like to have all the buttons in my application to have a different look and feel. And you can do that one place, and then you can use it. And you can take that same thought even further. So with Outsystems, you can easily make a theme, which you could include your corporate identity. You could build the visuals, the look and feel that you would like on all of your applications, build that into one theme, and then put it into all of your applications. So if you have 10 development teams developing 10 different applications, you can very easily make sure that they all go along with the same look and feel and giving you one identity, both externally and internally, if that is what you would like. So it's very, very flexible. Exactly this flexibility is what I think is probably one of the main things to note about Outsystems, especially in comparison to other tools in the same sector. Outsystems has a huge focus on alleviating the constraints that you might fear that there would be from low code. When I first started to familiarize with Outsystems and with low code in general, I had two fears that I think would be relevant to address, and which I think Outsystems solves both of them in a really good way. The first thing is, whenever you're having low code, that is essentially an abstraction on top of the traditional programming. When you're making an abstraction, there's a chance that you lose some of the flexibility. There's something you can't do because that's not available as part of the abstraction. In Outsystems, they have built everything on top of C# code. And to allow you to extend it outside of what they have already made in that abstraction, there's the possibility that you can have your C# libraries and you can then connect them to Outsystems, integrate with them. So if you have something already built that you would like to utilize inside Outsystems as a low-code feature, you can still just integrate with that library, and then now you have all the functionalities and methods available in Outsystems to plug and play together with the rest of the functionality in Outsystems, if that is what you would like. The other fear I would have when looking at a low-code platform is, am I now tied into this platform forever? What if I want to exit? Can I exit it in some way that is not tragically? Yes, you can. Of course, that is not the intent, but if you are leaving Outsystems for some reason, you have the ability with Outsystems to actually get all of the code generated and get that delivered instead of having the Outsystems application. Although all of this code is machine generated and not necessarily nice to continue working with, it is actual C# code that works. So that means if you want out, you still have all the logic built up in actual code that works. So you are not completely locked in by choosing a platform like Outsystems. And this is a point that varies a lot between Outsystems and a lot of the other providers in the market. Now just looking to the next theme. This also touches upon one of the things I often face when we go to different clients and tell them about Outsystems. If you look at the different vendors of low-code application platforms, some of them are targeting more narrow pieces or narrow spaces of applications. They are sort of like niche products that fit in very well for specific purposes. Outsystems is not really like that. Outsystems is trying to be very, very flexible, which you will also see in the common use cases for Outsystems later. It is very much an enterprise-grade application that you can build with Outsystems. You can be very, very flexible, and you can build very many different kinds of applications. In those applications, security is, to a large extent, completely taken care of by Outsystems. When I say a large extent, this is because you can still add functionality. You can add those C# libraries, or you can add JavaScript code to the UI if you would like that. And of course, those applications cannot be guaranteed security-wise by Outsystems. But other than that, they have made all the work to make sure that your applications are secure. Also, the way that things are built in Outsystems is using the best practices available to ensure a lot of scalability and performance. Also, if we take a look at the architecture of those applications, this is very, very flexible as well, and very much similar to what you would do in traditional programming. If you have a solution, you can have separate modules underneath that solution. And each of those modules can be reused again and again across different applications. So you will get a lot of the flexibility, and you will get a lot of the additional acceleration through the reuse of these modules. Yes. Now, looking into the deployment, there are several things that are very important with Outsystems and deployments. First of all, the environment where you are to deploy your functionality has several options. If you choose Outsystems, there is, together with that, the Outsystems Cloud. The Outsystems Cloud is backed by the AWS Cloud. So that means you have a very good support worldwide, no matter where you would like to build this application. You can distribute it very, very far, and that would be perfectly fine. However, if you would like that to be outside of the Outsystems Cloud, that could be another cloud provider you have, or on premises. That is completely possible as well. You will just get the Outsystems software and install it on those servers, and then you're up and running with your applications there instead. Now, when you're deploying something, Outsystems is having a lot of focus on catching errors early. So one thing about that is what you see here called the true change agent. It is basically the same as you would see in an IDE for traditional programming. So you catch all the compile time errors, and those errors limit you from the ability to actually deploy code. So if the Outsystems IDE is aware of any errors in what you made, it will not allow you to deploy that version, because they know it will actually make it fail in that production or less environment. That also goes if we look for the more total life cycle of the application. When you have Outsystems, there are two ways that you can deploy across different environments. The built-in way is that if you have several environments, you can choose in a visual fashion to take one application from, for instance, your development environment and move it over to your production environment. If you do that, Outsystems will scan to see this application is using exactly these modules with these versions. Are they available in the next environment? And if not, it will tell you and give you the option to deploy those as well, making sure that it will work when it gets to the next environment. Now, in traditional programming, or at least with some of your other applications, you might be used to having this process completely automated through tools like Jenkins, Azure DevOps, or similar. You can do the same with Outsystems. So Outsystems is exposing a deployment management API, and they're also handing out very good guides to setting this up with your typical orchestration tools to allow you to do this automatically. This also means you can build test automation in Outsystems applications, and that test automation you can run as part of this deployment to the next environment, just as you would do with any other application. Now, for the last one, before handing over to Jonas, the final thing to mention among the very many things about Outsystems is the metrics. When you do traditional programming, whenever you do any function or anything, you are responsible to take care of the logging. You have to implement that the right things are logged at the right level anywhere in the application. When Outsystems provides this abstraction on top of it, they actually also take care of all the logging for you. So they basically log and monitor everything. And all of those logs are then collected and put into a service monitoring the solutions. And in here you can drill down into all of the logs that you would like to do. Now, you might have another monitoring solution in your systems landscape, and you can still use that with Outsystems. So again, APIs are provided that allow you to collect all of that data if you would like, and then have it in your one other solution, so you have everything in one place, if that is what you would like. And with that, back to you, Jonas.
All right, excellent. Yes, so to summarize, I mean, what we do with this platform, we kind of challenge how we address the challenges of traditional IT with growing backlogs, and we know with traditional methods we have a lot of burden on the IT development, and a lot of that power goes to just keep the lights on with existing applications, preventing to do innovation and think forward. So with Outsystems, we make it easier to maintain your system, to give more time also to do the innovation. And also, with the platform, there are other things such as non-functional requirements. If you look at the point in the middle there, security, Jacob already covered that to some extent. Governance of applications. We see normally within big organizations there are so many different tools and applications developed in many different parts of the organization, and sometimes the governance of who owns what application, what is the how it's updated, and the actual plan for that application could be very hard to understand, especially when there are very many of them. So Outsystems makes it very easy to see what is developed in the system, how can it be reused in future applications. So the more you develop with the platform, the more easier it will be to continue driving innovation in new areas. And also, of course, the constant change. Now we see that the lifetime of applications in a specific state is very short. So compare that to previous times or earlier, you developed an application and it was static for some time, but now we see that applications are a living thing. So you need to really update them and bring in user feedback to make sure that the experience of that application is always a good experience for the end user. Or there could be end users, in internal or external users, of course. And also in the lower right corner, new technologies appear faster than apps. So with Outsystems, you will have one designer cockpit, and depending on what kind of new technologies that are coming, for example, from the front end or other things related to, let's say, cutting edge technologies, we will integrate that behind the hood. So as a developer, you still see the same thing when you develop, but in the end, when the code is generated, it will utilize all the new say, latest technologies. So we constantly keep updating the platform behind the hood so it use up-to-date technologies. All right, next one. So where does Outsystems fit? I mean, we're talking about building applications fast and how we can do that with the different capabilities. So you can actually step through all these different steps there. I think it's actually easier if we see. Yeah, stop there, exactly. So what we see in the scattered landscape with companies, that they have a lot of different systems underneath that need to be connected. Different tools, databases. I mean, data could live at any place. And on top of that, usually there is some kind of BI AI layer that includes logic that need to be used by other tools, more on the experience layer that are on the top. And also, usually these tools, what you see here, 2, 1, 2, and they need to be connected also in some kind of unified user experience. If you take the next slide also. So examples of these more user experience tools, we have process management, we could have, for example, ServiceNow or Salesforce. They usually have some kind of customization possibilities built in, but within an enterprise organization, there might be needs that goes above the capabilities for those type of customization properties of those tools. So this is also where Outsystems can be used as the glue between all various kinds of systems to create this unified user experience across all platforms. And the next slide as well. So yes, exactly that one. You can also, instead of these, say, COTS tools that serves a specific purpose, you can develop core component that serves that specific tasks as well. So as a platform, there is not really any limitations what kind of systems you can do. You can build ERP systems or CRM systems with it, but normally it doesn't make sense to do that if there is a solution that actually fit that purpose. So Outsystems is a tool where you really can customize the applications to your specific needs. And that said, you have the possibility to either build on top of existing things, but also build it from scratch, from the data and up. All right. So all in all, if we look at that, it is a very modern platform aimed to build really serious applications fast. So there are a lot of other tools, as Jacob mentioned. Sometimes they are a bit more niche oriented. Outsystems is a very, very flexible platform. So basically everything you can do in normal .NET, you can do in Outsystems. You just have a much faster and easier way to do that, to do the development. And also build it right. This is also, of course, related to how it will scale and be really easy to reuse in the future. So if you make a choice to go with Outsystems, you should not, I would say, paint yourself into a corner in 2 years from now, so that whatever happens and whatever comes up, you will have a platform that will allow you to build in any direction in your business. All right, so now we've covered about the platform, and let's look into who can actually use Outsystems. We have touched a bit on that already. So this slide is divided in 3 different sections. If we look at the lower part, we have the citizen developer, we have the low-code developer, and we have the pro-code developer. So there are difference in the experience level how to develop applications there. So the main target for Outsystems is the low-code developer, which will use a tool called Service Studio. This is the IDE where you develop the applications. On the left side, we also have the citizen developer capabilities that have been very much in focus over the recent years, since there is a very, very important need for business people to also contribute to the software development cycle. And there also must be some kind of, I would say, control of who can do what in these tools, and this is also possible to control within the platform. So things that are within the scope for a citizen developer, they can stick to that and then create an application that will later on be taken care of by more professional users. And also on the right side there with the pro-code developer, this is the traditional coding capabilities. So we target the entire spectrum of developers to use the platform in different, let's say, stages or different at different levels, which makes it very usable across the entire organization. All right, I can take the next one. So that brings us into the workflow builder. So I would say the North Star of this one, what we try to achieve here is make it really easy for business users to create simple to medium workflow applications. And it doesn't end there. So those applications, as I mentioned, can be further taken into more serious applications involved by developers. So on this side, you see the business target people and the developers. So the focus is a collaboration between these two, of course. And we can change to the next one. This is yours. Perfect.
Yes. So what we typically see at many clients is that there's a huge backlog of things that you would like to do. There's a lot of ideas in the business, but the ability to actually make a working prototype or test out those ideas are fairly limited. Typically, they are constrained by the capacity that you have in your IT organization. This is what you see on the left. What we can see as an opportunity working with Outsystems is, and especially with these different builders the workflow builder being one of them, is that you can allow many more people in your organization to take part in actually delivering these prototypes, testing out the ideas, and actually get something that is not just a mock-up, but is actually a real application that you can then enhance through the IT department as the time goes on. So by this, you can have a lot more of actual ideation, you can have a lot more of actual innovation and test it out for real before you put it into your IT department. And by that, you can alleviate some of the constraints. So this is what we would like to target with the workflow builder.
Correct. So what's really under the hood there? So if you step forward one slide, yes, that's one exactly. So we have underneath, it's based on something called the case management framework, which allows you to create very complex cases depending on the needs for your organization. So that under the hood is more targeted for the developers, but on top of that, the workflow builder is built as a SaaS solution used by the business people. So that is the thing we will show now in this demo coming up in a few seconds. So one more slide. We go there. We have what we are going to do here in this demo. So this is the workflow that we're going to implement. So this will be a little insurance application. So we have an employee or someone, could be anyone, submitting a case. Depending on that case, how big or large it is, it has to go through some kind of decision process. And in this case, if the case is under a certain limit, it will directly be approved. If not, if it's a larger case, it has to go to a manager for approval. And after that, it will be notified to the submitter that this is approved, and the case is closed. So we're going to develop an entire application for this. And this is a very simple use case, but we will end up with something that looks like this. So in a few minutes, we will create a ready-to-go applications with login for different users, with the possibility to submit cases. And then we'll also make a change in this application, like we mentioned before, the collaboration between the citizen user and the professional developer. So we'll do a little change in the real development low-code tool also to see how that looks like. We will not be writing any type of code in that tool either, but it just highlights how easy it is to start out from the workflow builder, migrate the tool or the application into the real, software factory for further development. So with that, let's start the video. So I'll walk you through here. Normally I do this, of course, live, but this is how it looks like. So you log in, you have your development environment, and that will bring you to the interface where you can create apps. You will see all the different apps you have developed already. So the first thing you will do is to create the application. You click there, and there are a few options there already, templates application that you can develop. But in this case, we're just going to start from scratch building this insurance application. So you first sign up for a name. In this case, the Deloitte Insurance, I think I wrote there. You have also possibilities to choose the color theme, either by picking with the color picker, or you can also import a picture based on a graphical profile for a specific company, which will choose the main color of the application. So this is how it looks like. It starts out with with the top of the screen. You need to provide a form. What is the information that this case will be relevant for this case? So you start creating all the different lines for the form. So in this case, it will be a description of the case. We will also create in the next step what kind of priority it has and what kind of amount is relevant for this application. And here, in this case, it's a very limited number of form information cluster that you need to fill in, but this could be done to very large complex forms as well. But the method of entering the information here is exactly the same. So right now you see that we create the different options like a drop-down box, and you set that as a required field, and then you say save. And the last one will be the actual amount. And based on all the different parts in this form, you can then do decision points in the workflow later on to handle them in any specific way. So now when you have the form, you need to see what happens when it's submitted. So we can say that, okay, we want to notify and we're going to send a mail. So this is a mail template that you can also edit depending on what you want to have on the mail. And then you save that. So that will, under the hood, also create the mailing functionality. So now the next point will be to create a condition. If you remember, in this field, we need to decide whether the amount here is below or above a certain number. So we call this something that makes sense, like decision in this case. So here I decide on what variables should I use. If the amount is lesser than, in this case, 100, just for a number. And also, of course, with the and if, you can create pretty complex decision criteria there. But for the sake of the simplicity here, we go with this one. So then we also need to decide what will happen when a case falls into this category. So then we should say that it should be actually automatically approved. So I need to create there is a new status. I can create any type of it. So create new status, approved, and we're gonna use that one, and we're gonna notify the user with some kind of mail. And then we click save. So then what's next? We need to also design, of course, the other branch of this if the case is above 100. So this is a manual task that involves the manager. So therefore we name this the manager's approval. And you can see there it says assign to. It's pre-populated now with the requester manager, but it's also possible there to create any type of group. If you have, for example, a support case or different lines of business that will actually handle this. So you can branch out that to any group there that will do the approval or reaction or any further handling of the case. So that is actually done, and we have now a possible application to build. So in this case, I've already tried to build it, so I had to change the name there. So this is also something that the tool directly realized, that if something, you can't overwrite something, it will warn you if you try to do that. So it now builds the application, and now with this video, it takes about 4 minutes to build. But then you can open it in the browser, and it looks like this. So it creates the entire login screen with a different user. We have the requester, we have the requester manager, and a general administrator. So when you log in as the requester, you can filter on your active, closed, or all requests. So in this case, we create a first request that is a smaller case. So we'll just trigger the logic that we built under the hood now to automatically approve this. So I set it to medium, and we say, okay, this is below our decision threshold, so it should automatically be accepted. And then we create another case that falls into the manager's approval category, for further inspection. And also, I didn't mention that, but it's also possible to, of course, submit forms, pictures, other things in this form when you create it. So you have full flexibility there. So here I can see it that I have now my request. I have two, and I have one that is active. So one is already approved. We can see that if we sort for all. So that is good. The thing that we need to do right now is to actually log in as the manager, because that one should have received a case to handle. And we see here manager approval. We see the large case. We also see assigned to me there. So here we click on that one and we analyze what's in the form, if everything makes sense, and we say that okay, this is all good. Depending on the complexity here, you might have uploaded documents that you need to scan, of course, pictures you need to, if it's an insurance case, for example. You can write different comments also depending on that information. That will be directly shown in the timeline. But here I just choose to illustrate my notes there, and then you approve it and write some kind of note to the requester, and you make sure that he also sees that message. So that is now handled, and we can see the entire timeline. So now we can log in also as the requester once more to see that. That should probably give me two closed requests. So we can see that the progress bar is at the very end, and everyone is happy, hopefully. So this is the type of app and how it looks like in this specific very limited case. Sorry. So what we actually will do now is to bring this application into Service Studio to make a little custom change. So here we can see we can convert it into Service Studio. So this is kind of where we enter the borderline between the citizen developer and the professional developer. And we say yes, that okay, from now on, this you cannot do any further changes here in this let's say no code tool. It will now be translated to the other development tool. Converted into Service Studio. So this is how that tool looks like. So there I can search now for my newly created application, which is the Deloitte Insurance 2. So I open that one, and the very cool thing with the workflow builder is that it creates an entire application, including the best practices with libraries and core services exactly matched to how you should optimally build applications to scale. So in this case, we want to add a little dashboard to the list of different cases that I have, so I can see what are, for example, my recent submissions. What are the, for example, a pie chart of the different distribution of the cases that I've submitted. So this is how it looks like. You just drag in a new screen, and there you have a few templates to start from. And these templates also include dummy data. So for example, as Jacob talked about, developing prototypes and paying together like application workflows, you can use these templates in a very easy way to really create an application in a few minutes with the login screens, with total workflows. In this case, we'll just use transactional dashboard template that looks like this. It has a few main, let's say, main areas. So last transactions, this month spent. So these templates are also possible to change in any way. So, for example, you can change the title of it, and as you see, this is I mean, in talking about development, I mean, this is the real development environment. So, and this is what we call low code. So, it's, I would say, compared to traditional coding, this is at a very high level. So, what we're going to do now is we're going to replace this mock data with information that we have. So what I do there is just to drag this database table onto that chart, and it will directly substitute the data for it. And I also do so that for the last or for the bottom icon there. I see I didn't change the title there, but also in this case, maybe I want to change this screen. So I will delete this left part of that template. In this demo, just to highlight how you can actually do that, and I maybe want to get rid of the actual partitioning of the upper screen there into sections. So you maybe just want to see the pie chart of the different submissions that I've done. And now we can see that we can press the build button and it will generate the code and produce the new application. So what we also need to do is, of course, add the link to my main screen, insurance dashboard. So in the automatic generated application, we will now have a little link that will transfer us directly here to the newly created screen, and that will complete the actual detour into the Service Studio tool. So now it will upload the application to the server. It will generate the code. It will make sure that everything works, and it will say done when the application is ready to look at. So we switch to the next screen, and now we can see here my request. And as soon as I update this screen, we can see that it's now updated to the latest version. And up in the left corner there, we have the insurance dashboard that we just created. So I can click on that one, and I'll see the newly created screen with my submissions. At this point in time, not so many. But this just illustrates how you very easily can add some custom functionality to an existing app that comes from the workflow builder. So all in all, that's the end of the demo. So that's brings us into what can this be used for, into the use cases. So next slide, and we can also step through those. So simple tools, we can bring in all of this. Yes, exactly. So of course, there are different kinds of applications, simple, medium, complex. So with the workflow builder, you go, or so you cover everything from the simple to the half medium section here. So expense approvals, employee performance, vacation approval, travel requests, these things are just very, very easy to do. And also, I mean, support cases, inspections, different supply chains information. Maybe you can add some mobile functionality to, for example, scan different items depending where they are. That will appear also in this timeline, for example. But when it comes to the more complex cases, you need to have an interaction between the citizen developer and the real developers. So all in all, with the platform, any type of these type of case applications can be developed. So I think that was the last slide about that. I think if we go to the next slide, maybe Jacob have some words to say about how you can get started with this tool within Deloitte.
Yes, so getting up and running with Outsystems is fairly easy. and there are multiple ways to do so, of course. We wanted to highlight as well that it is very, very easy also to get up and running on your own. So with Outsystems, that is a product with a licensing cost. But to figure out if you actually see how this works, could it work for you in your scenario, you can try out the platform for free. So there are personal environments, meaning that you cannot collaborate between a lot of people unless you use the same personal environment, but you can have that environment for free. And in that personal environment, you get almost all of the functionality that Outsystems has to bring. So you can build a full application in that just to see how it works and if it fits for you. Also, if you would like to upskill your people, Outsystems has a lot of learning material that is really, really good. Of course, you have the individual training modules or courses, but they also have these guided paths that are targeted for different kinds of applications. So you could have a guided path for being a mobile developer with Outsystems. And in a matter of hours, it would typically be around 1 week of full-time to go through all of that material. You will be very skilled in actually doing most kinds of things in a mobile application. The similar thing is there for all the other aspects, that being web applications, handling the DevOps part of Outsystems, testing, and so forth. So there's a lot of material, and it's freely available, and it's very modern, consisting of videos, exercises, and so forth. So you actually get to do it and try it out. The other option is to go with a partner like Deloitte and then get some of the benefits and accelerators you can get through Deloitte. Deloitte is a massive partner for Outsystems on a global scale, which also means that we have a very high number of individuals who are certified at various levels in using the Outsystems platform. We are happy to bring that experience to you to accelerate the learning if Outsystems could be the right tool for you. One way to do that could be that you bring the use case that you are figuring out maybe might be relevant for an Outsystems case, and then we bring the experts to try and work on that and to show you how much can actually be done in just a few hours. We'd be happy to do that. Another option is that, as I mentioned, Outsystems does has a license. If you're not entirely sure that you would like to pay that license because you're not sure that the platform can actually do what you would like it to do, we would be happy to make a proof of concept together with you, to spend 1 month of building as much as we can to let you figure out if this is actually suitable for your case. And then only after that month, then you have to decide if you want to proceed and then take on the licensing fee, or if you would like to reject it because it didn't really fit your purpose, at least not for that application. So there are plenty of ways to do this. The important thing is just for you to reach out if you would like us to help. We would be very pleased to do so. And with that said, we would like to spend the last few minutes on a Q&A session. I see that we have a few questions already. If you have questions and you haven't posted them yet, either post them and we will get back to you in written form if we don't do it now, or otherwise reach out to us afterwards. When you get the material, you also get these screens of our credentials, so you can get back to us in case that would be relevant. So just for the first question, and I would point this to you, Jonas. How long does it take to make a typical Outsystems implementation? Can you do it step by step, or do you need to implement it all at once?
No, you can definitely do it step by step. So we're totally, I'll say, agnostic how you develop that. So you can start with a, for example, user experience journey, or you can start with, if you have available data, you can just create the data models and build on top of that. So the platform is very flexible in terms of where you can actually start building. And also if you work in different teams, you can have them working on different parts of an application. And also related to the time it will take. I mean, we have companies now recently with, for example, related to Corona, that they needed to do, for example, HR apps to monitor, for example, where how people are, if they're infected or where they are and things like that. And that was developed in a few days. So I would say that we have customer examples on our web page, given examples from applications developed in days to, of course, longer, like several months, half year, years. But it totally depends on the complexity, of course. But in general term, we say that about 5 times faster than traditional coding. And that's, I would say, a pretty conservative number. I mean, we have seen everything from, I mean, it's hard to say, I don't like to name specifically numbers, but everything from 3 to 10, I would say, is very relevant.
I think that is also what we see.
Hope that answered the question.
Yes. I think that is also what we see in Deloitte. It, of course, depends on the complexity of the solution. For simple applications, this is very fast. I would say we typically see that in a matter of weeks. For more medium-sized, it might be in terms of a few months. What we typically do is that we do the POC upfront to test out whether it works. We would also try and do the integrations and see that everything works, and then we can scale it. And I think one thing that is very important is also we can scale the team. Typically, in many situations, the team is quite small because it's very easy to get a lot of things going with a little effort. But if you're really in a time hurry, you could, of course, scale up on the number of developers that you bring along on that journey. Just, Julie, what is the time saying? It's 10. So we are at the end. I think for both me and Jonas, we would like to thank you a lot for joining this session. Please let us know if you have any more questions. We will be happy to get back to you. And also, you will receive this material after the session. Thank you. Bye.